Hello lovely people, this is Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room, and this is take 6 of my intro today because apparently don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, I have been sewing with Kaffe Fassett quilts, so you know that's made me happy, and you know it looks amazing with very little effort from me. I have sewn a bunch of squares together, and now I'm in the process of appliquing circles onto that quilt top. So I'm going to show you the footage of that first, and then I'll come back and talk to you about other stuff a little bit later on. My Kaffe squares are all joined up. I took all the pieces upstairs and I laid them out on the living room floor because they weren't sticking to my design wall. And I changed them around more, and I still found when I was sewing them together that I had 2 of these side by side, and I shouldn't have done. Notice there's a couple of rather light ones together here, but you know what? It's okay. I think it's wild enough that it's going to be fine. So it's 12 squares by 12. The squares are 4 inches, and I used my 1/4 inch foot to make sure it was nice and neat. So next, applique circles. Here's the plan. This IKEA bowl, from the outside to the outside, in other words, if I draw around it, is 5.5 inches, which is perfect. That's exactly what I needed. 5.5 inches so that it could be approximately a 5-inch finished circle. And I have, let me just grab the other ones here. I have a few fat quarters that are in the yellow-orange range. I might avoid the purple because I've already got so much purple in there. I'll see. But that one's a definite. I'm going to cut as many 5-inch circles, 5.5-inch circles out of that as I possibly can. And then I have this one here, which again has quite a lot of pink in it. So I'm going to try and go for the orangey yellowy parts as much as possible. And then this one I'm not sure about. I don't think I'm going to need this one, and I'm not crazy about it. The pattern is the same or similar to some of the splotchy patterns I already have on here in green and red. But yeah, I'm thinking the flowery ones will be nicer. I originally thought I might do about 11 circles, but I've made it smaller. My original plan was 12 by 15 squares, and I've done 12 by 12. And I'm just going to place them randomly. So I'll have to think about it. I think probably the best thing to do would be to cut the circles out and then pin them on random sections of the quilt and then step back and look at it. The idea is to applique a circle over an intersection. And I'm going to hand stitch those on. I don't want to use any interfacing, I don't think. I don't want it to be stiff. This is going to be a wall quilt though, so it doesn't really matter. I suppose it would be okay if it had something light underneath. Actually, if I was to use a really, really light heat and bond, I could even bond it down, but I don't know if I want that. I want it to stay drapey. So yeah, I think I will just go cut some circles and audition them. Here we go. I'll insert a picture here of the quilt laid flat on my living room floor because you can't see it all in this picture. It took me a while to figure out how many of these yellowy orange circles I wanted. I decided on 11 in the end, and where to put them. So the reason for 11 partly is that it's an odd number, but I have 11 seam lines. 12 squares gives you 11 seam lines each way, and I made sure that none of the, sorry, this is making my camera lens go funny. I'm looking through it right now and it just looks really weird. Okay, so there are no circles that are actually lined up with each other. That's what I wanted. Took me a while to figure it out. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start with this one here, just because, and I'll get you in a little bit closer in a minute. So I used my bowl to cut out my circles, and then I cut a cardboard circle out with the same bowl, but then I cut a line 1/4 of an inch inside, so that what I can do is, when I decide to get this going, which will be very soon, I can flip that circle upside down and put that in there. I'm going to have to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin right here so I don't lose track of where it's supposed to go. I'm going to run a line of stitching around near the edge, and then I'll put the cardboard circle in there and I'll cinch it up, press it, and then take the cardboard out and applique it on. Hopefully that will work. I think I've got everything I need. I've got a needle and thread, a pair of scissors and some pins, because after I've taken the cardboard out, I will pin it down, sew it on. Oh, I made it. Oh, I had it. I had it, and it fell back out again. I'm going to put a knot in the end, because obviously I need to cinch up the fabric. I don't want it to pull all the way out. I just thought of something else. What was it? I can't remember. When I think what it is, I will grab it. So I think I'm going to start by doing this from the outside, because when I cinch it up with the cardboard inside, I'm going to be looking at the right side of the fabric. And I'm going to have to go fairly close to the edge and hope that it doesn't pull threads and end up wrecking the edge of my fabric. I could have left a larger seam allowance. I didn't want it to be really, really bulky. So what's been happening this week? Not a lot, actually. Not a lot's been happening this week. It's been a pleasantly uneventful week. I only had one shift at work, and that was rather nice, because I had booked some time off thinking I might go to the festival in Victoria on Vancouver Island on the weekend, and I ended up not going. So from Wednesday to Wednesday, I basically have a little holiday. What do you call them? Staycation. That's what it is. It's a staycation. And I was asked to go multiple times to help out. And I could have changed my mind at the last minute, but unfortunately, with the amount of wildfires there are in BC right now, the worry is always, when will the next one, where will the next one happen? Not if it'll happen, it's when or where, because there are more starting every day in various parts of the province. And so I would hate it if I was out of town and something happened and my family had to evacuate without me here. If we're evacuating, I want to be here to grab my stuff, make sure my family is safe. Thankfully, the ones that are burning are not very close to my house. The major one that's a little bit further south of here is still burning and growing, and the town near it is still evacuated, completely evacuated. It's a horrible situation to be in. We opened our windows today for the first time in a week. We've been keeping them shut because the smoky air has been so unpleasant. But thankfully the smoke lifted a little bit and we can breathe again and see sky again. The downside to that is it gets hotter during the day and it just encourages the fires to burn more. So yeah, mixed blessing. Saw a nasty picture of one of the beaches at the south end of Okanagan Lake, where all of this ash that had fallen on the lake had washed up at the bottom of the lake, bottom end of the lake, because that's the way the water flows. And it was just like a few feet of ash next to the water line. It looked awful. Okay. Gathering stitches done. Now I did do a little practice run of this on a very small scale a couple of weeks ago. So I know that the theory is fine. I just hope in practice it works on a larger scale, because the ones I made before were tiny. Ooh. I maybe should have made the seam allowance bigger. What I can do, seeing as I've cut all of my circles already, is what I could do is I could make my cardboard circle smaller. Yeah, it's not working great here. I think maybe if I put it onto an ironing surface and pressed it maybe just as I am gathering it, maybe that would be all right. But no, I think I'm going to make my life a bit easier and make my circle a tiny bit smaller. Right. I have my ironing pad to my left and my little iron to my right. Yeah, not ideal, but they're on opposite sides of the table, but never mind. Let's see. I've trimmed a sliver off of the cardboard circle. Oh, good grief! Why is this not looking good? Challenges, challenges, challenges. I think I'm going to gather it up a bit first. Oh, I see what was. Oh, okay. I don't know why, but it just wasn't gathering past a certain point there. I know why. There's a knot in my thread. Typical. Okay. Gather it, then slide that in. Maybe that's the trick. Yeah. You guys can probably see what I'm doing wrong here. Aha! That's better. Okay, now I'm just going to put a little knot in there. Ah! All right, so now I can put that right there. Hopefully you can see that. Yes, you can. Get my cute little iron and give it a press on here. Maybe do it from the other side as well. Now I used yellow thread for that because I'm using my yellow-orange fabrics, but I'm just wondering what colour should I use for that. I wonder if yellow's too light. Let's see if I have an orange. I have quite the range of colourful polyester thread from all my years of working at Fabricland. So now what I need to do, I'm going to put that there so I don't lose track of it. What I need to do now is slide the cardboard out of there without wrecking it and then pin it to here. And I think I'm just going to eyeball it. I want it to be pretty much centered on those 4 squares there, but it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. So I think the best way is just to bend it this way, slip it out. I can use that again. I can turn this around. Good grief, words. And just see how I like it to look. See, there's pink and pink there. So I might want to have the pink going that way and maybe the orangiest side going that way. That works. I have to remember that this is a seam allowance, and so it's going to lose 1/4 of an inch of its size there. I think that's good. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. Multiple pins, because I'm sure this thing is going to want to shift on me as soon as I start sewing it. It's funny, when I laid out this quilt top on the living room floor upstairs with the new circles on top, Mr. Stitches said something about them not really. No, I think he actually said they looked boring in comparison to the background. I think that was his exact word. And it's surprising because I thought they would actually stand out a lot more than they actually are. But I'm still loving it. And I think when it's hanging on the wall, it'll look lovely. So that's what matters, right? So I think for maximum invisibility, I'm going to run it along that fold for a tiny bit, maybe a couple of millimeters, and then go back into my fabric down here. I'm going to do it 1 stitch at a time and not rush it for the best result. So take a bite out of here. Yeah, it's catching on the pinheads. Of course it is. So this morning, Mr. Stitches and I went over to our favourite fruit stand and we picked tomatoes. They had about 3 different varieties of tomatoes for $1 a pound. Yeah, isn't it funny how I say tomatoes the American way? Some words I say the Canadian way, and some I say the British way. I'm not consistent at all. I'll say tomatoes, but I'll say basil. Like I can't bring myself to say basil, but I'll say oregano instead of oregano. Funny. So many people say I don't sound like I've lost my British accent at all, but I have adapted a little bit. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, tomatoes. We ended up picking about 40 pounds of them. It didn't take long. I've got a little bit of footage from the fruit market. And we just had 2 boxes in a little wagon and we pulled them down to where the field was, where they told us to do the picking. And it was interesting how many of the tomatoes that had blossom end rot. Obviously, we were told to ignore those. So my husband was quite happy that even someone who grows tomatoes as a profession still gets blossom end rot, because that's a problem we've had in the past when trying to grow them. You get that nasty black bit on the bum. Anyway, we brought them home, and what we like to do is freeze them. So we realised that we didn't have enough Ziploc bags. So while I rushed out to the dollar store and I got a whole bunch of Ziploc bags for the freezer, Mr. Stitches got on with washing and quartering the tomatoes, and by the time I got back, he'd got quite a lot of them done. So what we ended up putting in the freezer was 9 bags with £3 in each. So that's a nice haul. And that's just going to be our first haul, because there's going to be a lot more to come. Normally we don't do this until September, but I think a lot of things are ripening earlier and they might be done earlier. So we're just going to have to keep a close eye on the newsletter from that place so that we don't miss anything good. I think this is a cheap and nasty needle. I got it out of my hand sewing needle box. Just a random thing kicking around in the bottom there. And it's not the best. It's a small needle, but it doesn't seem that sharp, and the eye is looking a bit rough too. I can see my stitches, which is not ideal, and I just don't want to be pulling it too tight in case I ruin it. You can see ever so slightly the tiny stitches around the edge, but I don't think that's a problem. I said it before and I'll say it again. I just love the colours that Kaffe Fassett and his team use in his fabrics. So pretty. And there's my first circle appliqued on. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And my stitching on the back, I don't know if you can see it. Pretty neat. The seam allowance decided to go the wrong way, but that's okay, because when I stitched on the other side, I didn't catch the seam allowance when I went past that spot. So that was lucky. So I didn't sew it down the wrong way. Only 10 more to go. Believe it or not, it's this time of year again. Middle of August, and the U-pick has started. Actually, I think we probably already missed some good U-pick opportunities at this lovely place. This lovely farm stand where they've got all the peach trees and they've got the flowers, and they're going to have pumpkins soon, and they have tomatoes. They also have prune plums, which will come later. Time to pick tomatoes. Lots and lots of lovely tomatoes. So we're filling 2 boxes this size with some beautiful fresh tomatoes. I'll eat some of them raw, and then I'll freeze a lot of them too, because they make great pasta sauces later in the year. It's the next day, and I have attached 5 circles out of my 11, which is way more than I expected to do when I came down here this evening. So let's just show you that. Do you like my t-shirt? This is a t-shirt I bought from Michael's during Pride Month. I love it. Okay, so we've got that one sewn on, and that one sewn on, and that one right there. Yeah, I think you're going to have to take my word for it. There are 5. and the ones still flapping about in the middle are the ones I have yet to do. I timed myself doing one of them from the very beginning to the very end of one circle, the gathering, the pressing, the pinning, the sewing. It took me about 20 minutes for one. And I was getting to the end of the fifth one there, and I was thinking, I think I've had enough of this for one session. You know how you get that feeling and you're just itching to do something else. I did enjoy it though. I did enjoy hand sewing these on, which, you know, is quite unlike me in a way, or it used to be unlike me, because in the old days I would have just whacked them on with machine zigzagging just to get it done quickly. That's not the plan today. So what I'm going to end up doing once this quilt top is done, which it will be when I have finished my circles, is I will obviously layer it with the backing and the batting. I'm not sure what I'm going to back it with yet. It won't be more of this Kaffe Fassett fabric, because I feel like that would be a waste to have it on the back of the quilt. I do have quite a lot of it left. I have all of this left still. All of these beautiful fabrics left, and I want to put them somewhere where they will be seen. So once I've figured out the backing and the batting, I'll be hand quilting this in kind of a big stitch quilting. It won't be tiny, tiny stitches, but I will be quilting around the circles or inside the edge of the circle probably, or maybe even in a spiral. I haven't decided yet. This is it's a work in progress. What was the word I was looking for? It's kind of a design as you go thing. The only thing I planned was the squares and the circles. I have not yet planned the quilting. And I also bought I bought a piece of black fabric from the Armstrong quilt shop a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking of using that for the binding, but I'm not sure about that yet. It might be a little hard for the edge, mightn't it? I could always do a facing where you don't see the binding, you just see the edge of the square. But I do like, I like the edge to look finished and framed, but I'll have to check that when I get to that stage. So what do you think? I think they look like little sunshines, don't you? And despite my whining about the summer, this last couple of weeks, despite my whining about the summer just lately and the smoke and everything, I have been appreciating one massive bonus of summer, and that is all the fresh fruit. So the last couple of days, I have been gorging on blueberries and peaches and tomatoes and all sorts, pineapple, cantaloupe, and I'm not sure what made me decide to do it, but after breakfast yesterday, yeah, I do know what made me decide to do it. After breakfast yesterday, I was feeling how I felt in my body, and I wasn't happy with how I felt in my body. At my age of 63, I have thankfully got to the point in life where I am very accepting and much more loving of my body than I have ever been. But I got to the stage where my tummy was bothering me because it was getting in the way of things. And I just thought it shouldn't be getting in the way of things. I don't like to feel it's in the way when I'm bending down, and I don't like to feel it's in the way when I'm doing yoga poses. And I just felt kind of bloated all the time. And so I thought, I'm going to do something about it. Like, I'm not going on a diet, because diets never work, right? But I just thought, I have all this fruit available to me. I have all these blueberries and peaches and melon and that right here at home. So I am going to do a few days of just fruit. It might even extend to longer than a few days. So within fruit, I include fruit type vegetables and also leafies. So for lunch today, I had a huge plate of arugula, and I put cucumber and tomato and bell pepper on top with a little bit of balsamic vinegar. And yesterday's lunch was just a big plate of tomatoes. And I've just had fruit, salady stuff. So it's all been really fresh food. It's fantastic. So I'm hoping just to feel a little bit lighter and a little bit more comfortable in my body after I've done this for a little while. And then I'll get back to normal eating. Because it's easy to do this sort of thing in the summer when there's this abundance of fresh fruit. And then once the weather cools off, you just want to get back into, hot food again. At least that's what happens to me every single time. Anyhow, enough of that. So I was trying to think whether I had anything else to talk to you about. If I have, it's gone out of my head. So I think we'll call it quits here for today. Next time I see you, I'm sure I'll have the circles sewn on and probably the quilt top sandwiched and ready for quilting. So I'm looking forward to that part. I think hand quilting it is the right idea. I've kind of gone off machine quilting because I'm always so worried it's going to pucker and I've got to wrestle it under the arm of the sewing machine. So I think definitely hand quilting is the way to go. So thanks so much for watching. I'm really happy to be here with you, talking about stuff that I love and I hope you love too. And I'll see you again next time, probably with more of the same, but hopefully some other stuff too. And we'll have some fun together. See you next time. Bye for now.